with all the recent coincidences and all the crazy things that are taking place now, if it be derailments, if it be warehouse burning, if it be rumors of more conflicts and escalation, what does it actually come back to? Well, it comes back to four things that we need to pay attention to, not just as Americans, but as citizens of any country. What are four ways that they're looking to control us and how they can manipulate anything that's going on with four different things? I call it the 4 H's, and we're gonna jump into it today. It's gonna be a great video, eye-opening, and hopefully you can share this content with someone else and it will help them see what's truly going on. Let's jump into the video today. It's gonna be a good one. It starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up if you can, and let us know what you think about this video. We're going to be giving away thousands of dollars worth of a giveaway in just a few days. Once we hit 200,000 subscribers, all it takes to be entered is just you subscribing. So go down here, press subscribe. If you like our channel, give us a thumbs up, tell us what you think about the video. So let's jump right into it. The coincidences and the coercions, the manipulation, the escalations, the things that are happening around you does make you feel desperate. And when we feel desperate, we tend to lean on someone else to tell us what to do, which is a bad decision. We need to learn to build wise decisions so we can lean on ourselves. So taking control is really what it comes down to. All the consequences, all the things that are happening, it always comes back to control. And sadly, that is what we're dealing with today, because with every action, there's a reaction. And when that action takes place, if we're not ready to react ourselves, then someone else will react for us, and then all of a sudden it just allows us to see our freedoms kind of go away. So let's jump into what I call the 4 H's, and let's start with number one. Number one is hunger. So if we look at civilization, we see the war and the conflict that's happening across in Russia and Ukraine. It does hurt the grain mills. Also, it hurts the manipulation and speculation of the food coming from there. So you may not be feeling the actual shortage, but you may be feeling the manipulation of the shortage and speculations. What happens with petroleum the same way. If we see the world is struggling to feed itself because of money or the cost of it, or the fact that there's a shortage of it, allows us to allow the government to somewhat step into our life, or the powers that be step into our life. So hunger is number one. UN has come out and said there will be catastrophic shortages that will cause millions, especially in third world countries this year, to starve. You're also seeing in our first world countries where you may not see the shortage of that one thing. You may see the fact that you are sparse in some things, or the cost of the goods have gone up. So what do we look at? We want the government to come in and say, okay, please give us some funds, give us some way of affording the food, subsidize the farmers, subsidize the movement of food, so we won't go hungry, we won't starve. Control. We relinquish our freedom because we allow them to control maybe the food, the hunger, or the speculation of food. How you solve that? You start growing it. You start stockpiling. You start prepping. That's what our videos are all about. Hunger is one way that they will control you. We have just killed over 100 million birds over the last 2 years because of the avian flu. That will affect the movement of chicken and eggs. We see that with the price of eggs and chicken. However, now we can take that and say, well, you know, since we've had this loss, let's find other ways to genetically modify food to grow faster, or to grow in warehouses, or to grow in some kind of manufacturing hub to take care of the world. So we lose the control of taking care of our food, or seeing the farmers take care of the food, to where then we rely on someone else to control that instead of us ourselves. But do you see, just in the last few generations, how we maneuvered off the farm? We've maneuvered into cities as a civilization, and this is worldwide, not just in America, but worldwide, to where now we don't know how to grow chicken. We don't know how to grow a garden. We don't even have a place to do it, because we live all around us is just concrete. There is no ground to grow something in. So you learn to be innovative with raised beds. You learn to be innovative with grow tents. You learn to be innovative with greenhouses. If you don't, hunger will be one way you lose your freedom, and it's already started. Number 2 is homelessness. So we see the fact of hunger being number 1, homeless number 2. Why do I say homelessness? When we don't have food or we don't have shelter, that's 2 ways that all of a sudden the powers that be come in and step and say, okay, I can help you here. How many people now are living in subsidized homes? How many people are living with subsidized rents? How many people are still living at home because they can't afford to move out? How many people are living on the streets? We see tent cities everywhere across our nation. How many say, I can't afford a home, but however their rents are going up, so it's putting them in a catch-22 where they can't afford a home, but they can't afford to save money because their rent payments are too much. The control of the homes and the residential living and the way that we can hopefully take care of our family by living in our own property, that is becoming a thing of the past. I know in our area that's a very common thing. People still own homes. There's not a lot of rental in our small town rural Mississippi. Most people either put, a mobile home there, or they live in a rental property off a piece of land just for the time being until they build, or they buy something in town that's very small corporal limit town. But for the majority, people have maneuvered into towns and they rent, and they're paying skyrocketed rent price. Well, they'll never be able to actually afford to buy their own home, to have their own land, to be able to do their own things with. It's not because you don't have the money, it's because we've been taught that it costs too much to own land and that we don't need to maneuver away from where our jobs are. One thing that the last 2 years in the pandemic did, it taught us that we can work remote. If you can work remote, you need to find ways to get out of some of the urban or suburban areas, or out of the high places that cost a lot in rent, and maneuver to areas that are more economic in ways that you can buy a home, for sure. Because when you own something, even though you pay taxes, I know this is a big discussion for another video, but when you own something, you control it way more than when someone else owns it. They will control it. So if we see hunger being an issue, they step in and take care of it. We see homelessness being an issue, they step in, they take care of it. They subsidize your rent. They provide places for you to stay. You get government housing, or you live in some kind of complex owned by one company that provides thousands of homes. We're seeing that with our smart cities. We see that with places like BlackRock. We see a lot of this stuff getting bought up by big business, or either government subsidizing a way to live. They take control of the home. They take control of what you can or can't do in your home. I think of HOAs, I think of neighborhoods, I think of landlords. Those things are taking away your freedom, and it's allowing you to be a little bit more desperate. No food, no shelter. Signs of desperation are upon us. Now let's jump on to number 3. Man, this is a big one. We've seen this the last few years more than any other time in our society. Healthlessness, let's say it like that. Our health is so important. And when we see the fact that we are in stress because we are hungry, or we're in stress because we're eating trash, we're in stress because we're not having shelter, we're in stress because we're trying to pay for our shelter, all those things cause us issues with stress and health. Well, when our health is deteriorating, instead of trying to make it better by learning how to work out, learning how to be fit, learning how to eat right, learning how to watch what we eat, learning to do the things that are good for our bodies, we tend to rely on medicine, and we tend to rely on someone else to tell us what to do, instead of taking our own body's advice and say, you know, it may take rest. It may take pushing away from the dinner table. It may take not eating a lot of sugar all the time, because it's going to end up causing your body to react, and you're going to be a diabetic one day. It may be pushing away from all the fats and greases, because one day you'll have heart issues. When the powers that be control the health policies and the way that you get your health coverage, or the way you're taken care of with prescriptions, if all that is affecting one of the most fearful things for people in general is, I don't want to die, I don't want to be unhealthy, I don't want to be laying in a bed somewhere. So then therefore they become very desperate, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to be quote unquote healthy. Well, sometimes the things that we've taught our civilization, such as all these prescriptions that we're filling in our body, all these processed foods that we're filling in our body, is actually not making us more healthy, is actually causing us more harm. In our state, you know, for instance, health insurance is one of those things where people try to have, or they want to have. There's one big provider for health insurance in Mississippi. That one big provider cannot work out with our main hospital in our capital. So our biggest provider of insurance cannot even seek coverage at the main hospital here in Mississippi. So if we, like a trauma one or some kind of major situation, if you have that insurance, either you have to turn around and pay that hospital bill because your insurance is no good, or you can't use that hospital. That makes us have a desperate outlook on health. For instance, say all of a sudden we can't get amoxicillin, we can't get Adderall, we can't get all these medicines that we've gotten hooked on, or that we need for antibiotics, or we need to take care of our families because we've gotten so used to taking these prescriptions. And all of a sudden they become short supply because we don't make them here, they're all over the world. What does that do? That makes us get desperate. So when we see the fall of health insurance, when we see the fall of prescriptions, when we see the fall of these situations when it comes to our health and deteriorating our health, or we're worried or fearful that our health is getting worse because of things that are going on in the world, and we're worried about a respiratory sickness, or we're worried about whatever the next pandemic is going to be, when they control the fear, they control the health, which will make you be desperate, and then you will make decisions based on desperation, not the fact of sustainability. So hunger, so homelessness, and now health. Those are three ways that you will lose control, or you will lose freedom, because we've been taught that those things we need to seek help with. If we can't handle those ourselves, then someone else has to step in and handle those. So if we're not learning herbal remedies, if we're not learning how to eat right, if we're not learning how to be healthy, if we're not learning how to try to buy a home and save money, if we're not trying to learn to grow our food, if we're not trying to learn to stockpile, desperation comes, and guess who steps in? The powers that be. And those powers are not there to sometimes help. And if they are there to help, it's usually going to cost you something. And it may be a cost of a little bit of freedom, maybe a cost of a little bit of this or that. Are you willing to give that up? Now to the last point. Number 4 is probably the biggest for me, because it's not about the physical body, the mental body. It's not about the status quo of what we're living through. It is truly, number 4, being hopelessness. We have no hope anymore. And I say that not because of the physical and mental and all the junk we've been through in the last few years. Is we've lost our moral compass, we've lost our values, so we have no hope in society. Look at it, we're so polarized. We don't even agree to be the United States of America. We're hearing national divorce, we're hearing the polarization. We can't even agree that men are men and women are women. It's crazy out there. So all of a sudden we become hopeless. You hear stories of these wars, and you hear that America is giving more money to basically just burn in another country because the sources on the ground are showing that Russia's not going to lose this war. However, all of a sudden we're just pouring money over there, so you're seeing your tax dollars go to nothing. Hopelessness. You see your retirements, you're putting all this money, and you've worked so hard for 30 and 40 and 50 years to put money up so you can retire and just enjoy life with your spouse or your grandchildren or children. And all of a sudden there's no money there. Hopelessness. We see that all the things that we've worked for, and all of a sudden we get laid off from a job because the inflation and interest and all the costs to doing business now is too much, and the business shuts down and we lose our jobs. It's hopelessness. We're up to here in debt because we don't know how to manage our money anymore, because we haven't been taught that way. Our government is spending well over our GDP. We're going in piles of debt as a nation. We're going in piles of debt with credit cards for personal use. All those things will allow us to see that we are desperate, and gives us no hope. And that all relies spiritually back on our nation. And if we don't find our way spiritually, and if we don't find our way to find hope anymore, then all these other things are not going to happen either. So, solution. We talked on number 1. You have to start growing your own food. You have to start stockpiling. You have to figure out a way to do something about your food. You do not need to be just making weekly lists to run to a grocery store and hope that they're always going to have what you need. Number 2, with homelessness, we're in a mentality now where we don't want to own anything. And that's actually just what they're wanting. They don't want you to own anything so they can control you and take your freedoms even more. Desperation and not having something under your name and having assets. You have to start looking outside the box. You have to move out of these cities. They control the cities more than anything. Move away from the cities, get in rural America, work from home if you can, or find other means and ways to build side hustles, to start saving money, to purchase land outside the city. It's not about building this big monster home or this $1 million mansion or having this big estate. It's not that. is having a little piece of property that you can do something. You can start growing your own food. You can have some kind of sustainability because you own this asset. Health. You have to control your health. Now, some things we can't control. We understand that. You cannot control some diseases or cancers that you will face. Some of them we inherit. We can't control everything. But you can quit eating this crappy fast food. You can start eating food that you can cook at home. You can start maybe walking or running or trying to be a little bit more physical. Buy your little indoor bike. There's ways that you can build a better health based on what you're doing. You can buy antibiotics to stockpile. It's good to have. We've talked about Jace Medical. There's a link below. I literally just bought another set of a Jace case just the other day. I personally bought it for myself because it's good to have. So we can do things like that. You can learn herbal remedies. You can learn foraging. Those things all allow you to have a little bit more control of your health. Just how we do insurance, just a little side note, we do a Christian care ministry. So we do medical bill sharing with a network of individuals. Now that might not be best for you. You may want that security of health insurance. But look at some options, because all of a sudden, like for instance in Mississippi, you can't go to our big hospital with the insurance that most people have. Can't do it because they won't agree on terms, which affects the consumer. Desperation. So you have to find ways to build sustainable health policy, start doing a bigger first aid kit, finding ways to take care of your family, and understand that you can put up prescriptions, you can buy over-the-counter meds, you can look at other options for health insurance. It can all benefit you. And of course, lastly, you have to find moral compass. You have to find values. We have lost our way as American, and I know that everyone won't see eye to eye on this. Not knowing how to save our children, not teaching just school in school. When we don't understand those things, when we don't see history, and we don't see where we come from and now where we can go and learn from history, when we don't see those things and we try to change those things, then we realize we are fallen. And America does not need to fall. America needs to find its way. I was so encouraged to see these revivals that's been going on all these college campuses lately, the Asbury, and I think it kind of spread. I want to see more of that because our nation needs to find Christ. Without it, we will be hopeless. And there's no politician, there's no government entity, there's no business that can help that. It's only Christ. Just like the crazy wind that we're having, and it's probably affecting this video, I can't see the wind. I cannot see it. I can feel it. It's kind of like hope. We can't see hope. We don't know what hope is. So you as an individual have to say, okay, what can I do better today to make me a better person, to feel the wind, to feel hope that's real again, that can see America do better. For us as Christians, we need Jesus. I understand that that's not everybody's policy. But if we don't find hope in something, then we're going to be hopeless, and all this other stuff, all these other H's are going to allow us to be desperate, and then we're going to allow everyone else to control us, and we're going to lose our freedoms all because we've lost everything. So we need to understand what control and desperation looks like and the coincidences that are happening. It may be to cause one of these things: hunger, homelessness, health problems, or hopelessness. These 4 H's will allow us to lose freedom, to allow other people to control, and then where are we at as a nation. So we're ending this video. I know we've had a lot of wind in this video because it has been a windy day. We have a storm coming in South Mississippi, so I hope it didn't affect it too much. I just want you to understand that we have to find hope. We have to find ways to feed ourselves. We have to find ways to take care of our health, and we have to find a way to be sustainable and start having some assets. If you could go back 10 years, just 10 years, how crazy it was still 10 years ago. But can you imagine these talking points that we're hearing now on our news 10 years ago? You couldn't even imagine it. That's how fast we can slide down the slippery slope and lose it all. So guys, let me know what you think about this video. I want you to understand that there is hope, and there is a way that you can control a lot of this, but it takes you building wisdom to understand some common sense approaches to see where we come from to where we need to go. And truthfully, finding hope can lead to all these problems getting better. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Happy homestead, y'all.